live, laugh.
And like the match got announced. I remember Bojack. I was in school, bro. I was in school, and Bojack blows my phone up. Yo, you got a match announced already. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? He sent me the picture, and I was like, wow. Like, it's my second match, bro, and I'm already getting, a match with a name in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was really an honor to learn from Cheeseburger. I think that was one of my favorite matches, and one of my favorite moments because I think you probably heard the story if if Deadlock ever told you, but that day I had a track meet, and nobody understood that like I was still in school. Like if you didn't know me, you would probably think like he's out of school, whatever. I had a track meet. I had to be there like 8 o'clock, um, and then I had to be at the show around like 1 or 2. I got there like 3. I walked in. I walked up to Cheeseburger. You know, nice dude, cool. I said what's up to the boss man. They was cool with it. They was cool with it.
Yeah.
Cheeseburger's like, oh no, it wasn't Cheeseburger. It was James. James like, yo, are you good? Like, why you late? Like, yeah, man, I just had a track meet. Huh? He said, what? Yeah, I just had a track meet. I was like, I just got back. And you about to wrestle? Yeah. I'm like, all right, well, kill it. And we had a good ass match. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's
Man, I have to say my Calvin Tankman match. I have to say my match with Calvin. But when that first got announced, I was like, yo, like, wait, it's Calvin Tankman. Like, Calvin's a big ass dude.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And bro, how they announced the match with the pictures beside each other, I looked at myself, I was like, yo, come on now. Like, I look mad small, bro. Like, I was like, damn. Yeah, Calvin about to fuck me up. Yeah. But nah, man, that was really my favorite match. I feel like that match really put me on the map, not only at DPW, you know what I'm saying, but like everywhere else, because that match started getting shared, and it was just straight valid. Like everybody was fucking with it, everybody loved it, and but that match was so fun. Like, like I said, that's another opportunity that that I take for real, for granted, because Calvin didn't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? I was just leaving a basketball tournament. I was mad late. You know what I'm saying? He did not have to do that. He could have gave me 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? But we had a banger. You know what I'm saying? I really appreciate him for doing that.
Yeah. I think Calvin Tankman, I've said it before, is like the hardest hitting wrestler out there. What is it like being on the end of some of those, like, just fucking like forearms? They look like they hurt. Like,
I was not. Yeah. He I was there was one part in the match where I'm fighting, and he breaks out, and he winds back, and like I feel like I saw it in slow motion.
Yeah.
He winds back, gives me a big ass forearm. Boom. I took it, I dropped, like I was gone. I was gone. And I just remember, like, boom, I hit my head, and I was just looking at it still, and I was like, all right, do I want to do this for real? You know what I'm saying? Like, do I want to keep on going?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, bro, like, once you get hit from Calvin or just anybody in general, it's like, all right, like, I gotta get his ass back. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got you. I gotta get his ass back.
Sucked into like a little big girl job, like at an early age. I was like 20, 21. I think I was 21. And he just made me mad one day, and I was like, oh, I don't want a corporate life anymore. And then I found George South online, and then 2 weeks later, we met at Bojangles. And then the following Monday, he had me bumping in Charlotte, North Carolina. I knew about him, but I lived in Asheville for a while. That's where I went to high school and where I started college. And then I dropped out of college and moved to Charlotte, and I just, started working and whatnot. And I knew about George South, and then I started researching the schools, and I was like, what are the fucking odds that High Spots is here in Charlotte, and George is one of the trainers, and the first trainer you have to go through. So I was just like, what are the fucking odds? And then just meeting him, I was just like, oh my gosh, you're so much better than I ever thought you would have been in person. He is so funny. With George, you don't have a style going, and you have George's style. So George teaches you the George ways. You can go to the Wednesdays was Caleb, so you could go to Caleb on Wednesdays, and Thursdays was Drake or Caprice Coleman, and you do their ways. But once you get back to George, you better do it George's way.
Yeah.
You better not move your feet in a lockup. You better not take your feet off the ground when you bump. So walking into George's class, you better leave it at the door, because unless it's George's way or Jessica Simpson, he does not care. Yes, my first time was a little over a year ago. I got the email, and I think I was only 14 matches in at this point. I was like, is this right? And I called James Drake, of course, and he was just like, you're welcome. And I was just crying. I was like, really? I have a spot? He was like, there's no guarantee in matches, but you're welcome backstage, you're one of my kids. And I was like, and my name ended up being written on the board, and of course I was basically shitting myself any normal human being would, especially someone so green, because I'm really not that far along. And luckily I was with Red Velvet, and Stephanie is probably the best person I have ever met, and I'm very thankful that she was my first match ever on AEW, because now I keep being brought back just due to just her always putting her neck out for me. The second time I was brought back is because Velvet went to someone, was like, yo, I really appreciated Brittany. She did this, this, and this for me. Because when we were calling the match, I was like, what are we doing? I'm here to enhance you. What would you like from me? And she was like, oh, this, and this. And she said one move that I hadn't taken yet. And I just stopped her. I was like, hey, I'm really sorry, but I haven't taken that move yet, and I don't want to injure either one of us or make you look bad. Is there anything else you have in mind? And she was like, thank you for telling me that. Because I didn't know how many people went on never taking a move before and being too scared to tell the side talent. So I'm very glad that I did that. And I also didn't try to get my shit in, because that's just not what I was there for. And I'm very thankful that I was on my best behavior, because they recognize that, even though I do believe I was put on dark a little bit too soon, because I watch it back and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have sold this better. I wish my footwork was better here. I should have taken this moment more. Now that I'm a little bit further along, I appreciate the opportunity, and I'm gonna keep coming back every time I got that email invite, and I'm always thankful for it and that they like me.
Company called PWX, which went on to be something bigger than it was at the time.
Yeah.
But everyone was super serious. And so there wasn't a lot of characters. And I wasn't much of a character at this time. I was still Stone Cold, or I was still trying to be Stone Cold, having a miserable time. Yeah. And this is about the time when I actually took the switch from being just Zayn Riley, first name, last name guy, to a moniker, and was the party manimal. Started there. And a lot of it did have a lot to do with Boogie Woogie. If you ever speak to John Schuyler, he fucking hates this match.
Really?
Because John Schuyler is a super good friend of mine, fantastic worker, one of the best. He's a real good road bud. But we're fucking around and just talking over our match as he and I, George will never speak. He will get dressed at his merch table, and he will walk from his merch table to the ring, and you will speak to him none in between. And Boogie he's Boogie.
Just kind of floating around.
We'll say it's the same thing. So I thought it would be real funny, because I would come out with beers and spit around beer and stuff, and but that's more for a party atmosphere, or if we were doing bar shows or something.
Yeah.
We were at a school, and that was very not okay. So I thought it would be hilarious to do the same thing, but with milk.
That's
And so,
awesome.
like, I'm coming out and I'm fucking chugging milk and spewing it around. Fans love it. But it turns out when you cover yourself in milk and then begin to sweat, it will expedite the spoiling phase of it all. And all of my stuff is with John. So it's me beating John's ass while he has to smell sweat and milk for 20 fucking minutes. And every time we get a couple good drinks in us, he loves to bring that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I was lucky enough to team with Boogie. I've been lucky enough to be on both sides. I've been lucky enough to wrestle Boogie. And it's just one of those, like, it might sound lazy in my delivery of it, but it's just like one of those easy days at the office. You don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah.
There's no set anything because, you know, all that matters is Boogie does his thing and you just get there. And it might sound lazy, but it's not. It's part of the art form of just like without any type of restriction, literally anything is on the table. Like we can do anything as long as we get to where Boogie wants to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't give a shit. Like working Kevin Steen at the time of my career, and this was right at the end of my super serious or serious persona deal. Working him right then was great. I had been utilizing what a fucking stupid word. I'd been ripping off a bunch of his shit for a while. And it just kind of like worked out. Like he came in and he was like super nice and very kind. And I was like, oh, I know you do this, so I'm not going to do it. And he was like, oh, no, do it. Just, you know,
yeah,
I'm just going to do mine better and harder. And I'm like, dope. He's like, that's how you should always do it. Don't do it. Just do it better than the person that you're doing it with. It does the same thing. Fuck, that's okay. And that led us to becoming very good friends. Like he'll message me every once in a while. I try to go see him when he's in town. Like we don't always get to do that, but like whenever I see him at like a WrestleCon during WrestleMania, it's always great to see him again.
Yeah.
At the time, my father was going through some health issues, like really bad. Like he had to have some open heart surgery, and there was some complications. And Kevin had found out, and like he messaged me and it was like, "Hey, what's going on? How are you doing? Are you okay?" This was before we even wrestled. Like we've never spoke to the motherfucker.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, cool. I'm going to cut a promo on you later. All right. And I'm like, okay, dope. So then he starts talking about my dad dying. And that's part of his promo. And I was like, this is fucking awesome. Jumped towards the end there. My dad's fine. Still to this day. But at that show, my dad bought my grandmother. And my dad, I don't know if you can tell by me so much, but I come from a line of hillbillies. My dad brought my grandmother, and we're fighting around the outside of the ring, and he takes me over in front of my father, who even in the night is a very nice little thing. So like he's beating me up in front of my family, and he says something, and my grandmother hops up and just starts fucking swinging on him. And it was so great. And then we kind of go on. And that again fizzles out like every other story. But that was just a funny little deal. And then Kevin will, after that would continue to ask about my dad and stuff. So it was always very nice. Other singles matches, I got to wrestle Vader before he died, like after the bad car wreck, but before he passed.
Yeah.
And like there was a million horror stories about doing it. And I'm going to be honest, I don't have that horror story with Vader. He was very nice to me. He was very concerned that like I might think the stuff he wanted to do was too like waka waka or too simple, and I was like, absolutely not, man. This is where I make my fucking bread and butter.
Yeah.
And so later in the night when the match was over, I tell this story sometimes, but not always. It depends on how you want to feel about Vader.
Yeah.
To me, it humanizes him some. So match is done. He's been injured. He got hurt the night before. And he's like, hey, do you mind not bumping me? I was like, dude, I'm just going to feed for a Vader bomb. You can do what the fuck you want. You don't have to leave your feet.
Yeah.
So he's done. He's waiting for the driver to come pick him up, and he asked, like, he's like, I'm waiting for this guy to come so he can carry my bag to the car. I was like, oh, dude, don't worry about it. I'll carry your bag. And he gives me like $10. It was super cool. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Not the part of the story that is the thing. So from the accident, he has a small scar in his lower back from the surgery.
Mhm.
And he was like, hey, dude, I really hate to ask this. Will you put this icy hot on my scar? I can't reach it. And it was in a very easy to get to place.
Yeah.
It's this like liquidy roller ball. And so I put it on, but he's also sweating.
Uh-huh.
So the icy hot gets into a sweat and then trickles down the back of his pants and assumedly into his butt crack. And he just goes, and it was like,
So when I was little, I didn't really watch like wrestling on TV or anything, but my mom would always bring me to the shows that he would do. So I would watch a lot of wrestling that way, and I wasn't exactly interested in it. Like, it wasn't that I wasn't interested in it. It was just I was kind of scared because I was like, what's going on? There's just a bunch of people beating each other up. What is this?
She totally thought it was real.
Yeah. And and I was always kind of just like, yeah, that's cool. This is something my dad does. Good for him, I guess.
Mhm.
And then around the time I was 7, like a bunch of like all of the kids that would like come to watch the shows would hop in the ring during intermission and after the show. And I would always try to get in, and he'd be like, absolutely not. No, you're too clumsy. You're going to hurt yourself. No. And then I was like, but Dad, I want to try it. I want to try to be a wrestler. He was like, you're insane. Absolutely not. And, and then I was like, okay, fine. And I kept trying, and he would just keep saying no till I turned 14. And he was like, you know what? Fine. I'll let you take a bump. So I took a bump, and he taught me how to run the ropes. And he was like, hey, kid, you're not half bad. You sure you want to do this? I was like, yes, please let me do this. Because I was kind of having a hard time in like regular life, so I kind of needed something to focus on, and he knew that. So he was like, okay, we're doing this now. No going back. So that's kind of how that
tried to retire that year. She said no.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, do you want me to still wrestle? And she's like, yes. And I was like, crap. Okay. Here we are.
No retirement.
Yeah.
Not for you.
No.
Not allowed. So he's the one that taught me how to bump safely and run the ropes. But then he was like, he trusted his friends to train me. So he was like, I'm just going to let them do their thing. I'm going to stay home and sleep. Y'all have fun.
I was very burnt out on wrestling at this time. So like, and I also couldn't really, I had surgery when she was like training at this point. I had been hurt. I got hurt at my shoot job at the time. So like there was a period of time where I just couldn't do anything, and it was just sucked to be there. And then right after I had a match, like a comeback match, I found out I need to get my gallbladder taken out. So I had to have surgery on that. So like going up there at that point and like watching her, it was too much. Like it was just, it was hard to be there if I couldn't get in there myself.
Yeah, I could see that.
So I just was like, let them do this. And this was even before Zane. I think though around this time, like she was training at the place that I wrestled at with some people, but then every month or so we would take her like to Zane, and she'd get some reps in with him because I trusted his opinion on, he has a very different opinion than a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I knew he knew her since she was a kid. So like, I knew he wouldn't do anything that would hurt her or take care of her.
He would take care of me.
Yeah.
Make sure I was okay. Make sure I knew what I was doing. Make sure I didn't die.
Yeah. And there, though, I started to get a little bit more involved with him because that was about the time where I was kind of starting to get better. So I wanted to come back and do some stuff. And so like I would also train with her with Zane a little bit to get back a little bit better in shape. And then of course,
then 2020 hit.
Yeah, the pandemic.
COVID shut down the place that we both started at, and We had nothing. We had absolutely nothing. We couldn't even like go with Zane or anything because that place was probably shut down too or something.
It was shut down, and he was also doing a lot of stunt works.
So then I was depressed because I was having a lot of fun with wrestling. Finally felt like I was kind of starting to get somewhere. And I was like, well, it all just went out the window. What am I supposed to do? So then he started asking around, asking some people. And James Drake told us to reach out to Ethan and try the Palmetto Wrestling Academy. So he was like, okay, it's a bit of a drive. We'll give it a shot. And it's 2-hour drive.
There and back all together is 4 hours.
There and back.
That's dedication.
Yeah. So we went and the first couple times that we trained there, it was just one-on-one sessions. And one day we just decided to stay for one of the classes. And I was like, hey, I really want to join this class because I really like the way that he teaches.
Like, I really like the team atmosphere that he kind of presented. Also, he did not train the girls like they were girls. Yeah. He trained them the same way he trained the men.
And if any of the guys treated me differently, he would make them stop and do it again the correct way. So because if you don't do something the right way because you're afraid, because if they have different parts, you're going to get hurt. Yeah. Or you're going to drop them on their head. Because they almost dropped me on my head once when they were giving me a body slam because they didn't want to pick me up the right way.
Yeah.
And Ethan was like, no, we do not do that here. Yeah.
Well, I think everything is a build in the match. So when you're doing something where you're using like chairs or trash cans or kendo sticks, I mean, look, those Singapore canes, man, they hurt. When you get hit with those things, I mean, they 100% hurt. And it's like, you can do a match where you go out there and you start whacking each other with those things 2 minutes into the match, or you can build to make the whacks with the Singapore canes mean something. If you start whacking a guy 2 minutes into the match with the cane, and you're going 10 minutes, by the time you get to 10 minutes, I mean, the whacks don't matter anymore. Like nobody cares. And there was a lot of matches that I watched with that involve like kendo sticks and things like that. I mean, they're actually pretty hard to find on the internet, but if you search around hard enough, you can find some. But some of the ones that I found, I watched and like within 2 minutes, they were like whacking each other with the kendo sticks, and like the crowd would be a little flat, like when the finish happened, because they've just seen the guys get whacked with the kendo sticks for 10 minutes. So I think going into that match, the object was, how can we make the match mean something, but then make the whacks with the sticks mean something when they happen. And I think we got there very good, with the help of Wrestling Mind, Dr. Tom. He's a great asset to have on the NWA team. I mean, he knows so much, and he's got so much knowledge and so much like teaching ability to help teach you and help you lay things out like where they make sense and like include everybody's ideas in. And I thought we did a good job, and I thought it was a cool way to like kick off the pay-per-view, because it, at least it felt to me like they put a lot of trust in me in that spot, because that's first match on the pay-per-view. It's kind of like your job to go out there and like set the tone for the way the rest of the show is going to go. And, they kind of put me in a big spot right there, and, I was thankful for it. And, everybody said that I delivered, and everybody was very happy with it. And like when I got done with the pay-per-view match, I went in the back, and if you guys want, I'll send you this picture. I mean, I didn't even put it online. Dude, I take so many pics that like there's like a lot of stuff like I just don't even share online because they're just like, I don't know, they're just like personal pics like for me, but like I'll send you guys these pics. But like Nasty Boy Knobs was in the back at the pay-per-view.
There you go.
And I came to the back, and he was like, man, he was like, they said this was your first pay-per-view match. And I was like, yeah, man. He was like, dude, he's like, you fucking killed it. him and Bobby Fulton, came to me and said, like, man, dude, like you killed it, man. You did a great job. So just like those guys, like, Ricky Morton, man. I mean, Ricky sent me a text after we got done with the loop, because we did Tampa for the pay-per-view, and then we did 2 TV tapings after that. So we did pay-per-view Saturday, and then we did a taping on Sunday and a taping on Monday. And Ricky sent me a text afterwards. He was like, you delivered on the pay-per-view. He's like, you did a great job and all that. So, I mean, it's just, man, it's insane. I picked everything up so quick because, like, all I did was watch wrestling for 30 years.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, if it hits you, I just mimic, like, what I've watched on TV for 30 years. It's like the guy snaps his head like this or, like, does whatever. And I think watching wrestling definitely is very beneficial. I mean, I try to watch, like 4 matches a day at least, because they're, like, the things that you can learn is, like, I'm watching a match and I'm looking at a guy and I'm going, like, okay, like, they're starting like this and they're working like this for about 40 seconds. And then, like, they get into a run spot or they do this or they do that. And there's so many good guys, like, someone like that old, like, ECW, like Guerrero and Malenko, where they were wrestling like 40-minute matches. You start to learn how, like I remember me and EC3 were sitting and we were watching, I think it was Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels. And I don't think either one of us had watched that match in a very long time. And, like, right off the bat, like, the first, like, couple things they did, I remember EC3 going, like, yeah, they're probably going 40 minutes here. And it's just like you start to pick up on, like, these guys are going to go 40 minutes. Like, they're not going to do 100 spots in the first 2 minutes. Like, they're going to try to milk it and tell the story and kind of drag things out the best way possible, to elongate those 40 minutes and then get into the meat and potatoes, when you got 15 minutes left of the match, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, one reason that kind of made it special for me was the fact that we're both 2 Southern wrestlers.
Yeah.
And I feel like, with what the story was for the match, he was a guy from the South that made it big and became, like, a worldwide, like, a world-renowned name. And, like, that's what I want to be. So getting to actually work with him, since, he is one of my favorite wrestlers too, like, was such, like, an insane concept for me, because wrestling him really made me step up my game, and it made me realize that being a technical wrestler was something that I legit wanted to be. Like, that's the style that I want to do. But man, like, that match, a lot of people credit probably as, like, one of the best matches that I've had in my career. And, like, I will never argue that, because, what that match meant to me was just more than I can even put into words. So, like, Gresham made me a better wrestler, just like he does anyone he steps in the ring with. And the fact that I got to do that right here in the heart of, like, the scenic city, like, nothing's cooler than that. Like, nothing can top that.
Yeah. What kind of, because it was like multiple round matches, what kind of planning goes into, first off, like, a very technical match? Like, is that something that you have to, like, plan more for, or is that more something that you could, like, roll off with and just, like, hey, we're gonna do this, hey, we're gonna do that?
Nothing was planned.
That's awesome. Very
Legit,
cool.
Nothing was planned. Like, I'll kind of peel back the curtain a little bit on this. Like, it was, I think, 6 rounds that we were that was allotted, right?
Yeah.
And we were told, like, if you guys, because it was like an exhibition more so than anything.
Yeah.
They were like, if you guys want to go, like, maybe 3 rounds. We ended up going the full 6, almost like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And, like, everyone was like, oh, we have to keep making, like, they're like, oh, we need to make, like, lower thirds for, like, round 6, like round 4, round 5, round. So like, they're, like, freaking out because we're just going. Like, by the time it was over, we didn't realize we went, like, 30 minutes or whatever. We were just having fun. And, like, that's to me, like, that's why I love technical wrestling so much, is because it's one of the most real things in pro wrestling. Like, it's legit. It feels like art when you're in there with someone who's just so skilled and graced like he is, you know, because like when you just have that perfect dance partner that you roll around with, like it's like, it's just beautiful. Like, it's a beautiful competition.
Yeah. Who would your Mount Rushmore of technical wrestlers be?
Man, so I would definitely say Chris Hero's number one. Chris Hero is probably like, if I could substitute anyone off that greatest of all time, I would probably move AJ out and put Hero in, because Hero's like up there for me as like a big inspiration. So Hero, Gresham, Danielson, Thatcher, and honestly, I would say Anthony Henry. Anthony Henry is an incredible technical wrestler. And so I think deathmatch wrestling is beautiful, just as pure wrestling is, right? Because there's such an art form to doing it that not many people know how to do right. But whenever you see a good death match, you know it's a good death match. You know, for guys like me, I was inspired by like John Moxley, Sami Callihan, Matt Tremont, Nick Gage, like those guys, because they were so good at it. Like, and they were able to tell stories using it. So, you know, for me to finally like get to step into that world, like, really meant a lot, especially whenever I had my first one against Tank at ICW No Holds Barred. In the pit fighter. So no, it's definitely a gear shift, because, you know, I try to implement things from what I would do in a ring regardless, but there's something like animalistic that comes out in you whenever you're like in a setting like that. You know, like you really feel like that you are like you're fighting for survival. So there's a different type of adrenaline that kicks in that you don't have in a regular match. And that's how I felt every single time I've gotten in. So the first match I had doing deathmatch was only supposed to be like a one and done. And then it just kind of kept happening. And I was like, well, here we are, you know. And it was never supposed to be like a one and done in like a way of like, oh, like that was fun, I don't want to do it again. It was just like, I have so much respect for the deathmatch world that I would never want someone to think, like you said, like you don't categorize me as a deathmatch wrestler. Like, I don't ever want a deathmatch wrestler to feel disrespected that I'm taking something or just using it for like clout, because that's not what it is. Like, I have so much respect for like those guys, you know? So like, that's why, like, whenever I finally like did more of them and I wrestled like Tank, Danny D'Amato, John Wayne Murdoch, you know, even me and Colby, I had one of his last matches before he's moved on into the role that he's in now. You know, like, I just wanted to like make sure I earned the respect of the guys that like are masters of the craft. So, you know, it really meant a lot to make sure that they knew like this wasn't something that I was just doing for attention.
But you always hear about paying your dues, right? That's the whole thing. It was professional wrestling. You got in. Dr. Tom got in by taking pictures in Texas. Like that was what, as a teenage kid, he was taking pictures. Eventually, gets into it. So, you know, it's about setting the ring up, doing all that stuff. So with the NWA, I always, you know, I've got the body type. You know, and I saw that they were about to take back off, and they were running a show in Oak Grove, Kentucky. I think it was the first Power Trip show that they did up there. And I never talked to this guy ever, except for maybe in passing. I'd seen his stuff. I know he's been around. Jeremiah Plunkett. He's now one of my really good friends. I get to see him often, you know, and I'm very thankful for him. But I messaged him out of nowhere and said, hey, man. It's like, hey, you know, Mr. Plunkett, I'm just looking for a chance. Who would I hit up just to do extra ring crew stuff? Like, wrestling, be damned. Like, I just want to be around. I want to see what the product looks like. I want to be around a bigger product with all these guys. And sure enough, like he gave me the contact of the person that was over the ring crew. I hit him up and said, "Hey, I'm not expecting anything. I'll come in, work for free. I just want to be there. I want to see what you guys do for your setup." Because we were running Dad's show, and I like learning and seeing what the high dollar companies are doing and how we can incorporate on a smaller scale with Dad's show to make it successful. But I went in and like I had just started growing my mullet. I had recolored my hair back to its original color, away from the blonde. So I did that. I go to Oak Grove, Kentucky, and the ring had already been set up. I know like they set it up the night before or whatever, but the ring's set up. We're doing chairs, whatnot. I meet Mark and all the guys that he brings in from Tried and True that are part of their ring crew. And you know, Crimson was there. Crimson was over the ring crew, but I just introduced myself there, and he's a terrifying man. He looks like he hates you all the time. And then he smiles, and you're like, I don't know if you're smiling because you hate me. You know, you're terrified, or you know, we're cool. But Crimson was great, man. He was super nice to me. Mark was great. Mark Rowland was incredible. All the guys I met and they're still around. But I mean, I did that, and I went in, and Mark looks at me. They had a spot. I think it was the night Mike Knox returned. Yeah. And beat up Trevor in the cage. So, man, they had a spot, and they're like, look, like we can already. Mark told me, pulled me aside. He said, I would have gladly chosen you for that just because you're big. He said, but they're going to like your size and your look. So we're just going to sit you over here next to the curtain. Make sure, he's like, just make sure nobody peeks back. Because the way the gorilla was set up, like one of the curtains didn't go all the way to the end. So I sat like out in the crowd next to this curtain to make sure nobody was back there looking, you know, into the gorilla position. So I did that and tore down the ring and, you know, apparently worked my tail end off enough to where they invited me to Atlanta. We went down to Atlanta. Same thing. Went down. They got me a room, which was really cool. A room with one of the other guys. Like, they take care of their extra talent in their ring crew, which is incredible. Right. That's how I feel like that's how most big productions do it. And they take care of them, and when it's time, they give you a shot. Yeah. So I just worked my tail end off. Ricky Morton was there, and Ricky loves me to death, and I love Ricky to death. George South was there, same deal. I love them both. Ricky took me around and introduced me. I'd already met most people, but Ricky made sure to grab me and take me and introduce me to everybody. Introduced me to Corgan, Pat Kenny, all the agents, Medusa D, all those guys and girls, and you know, I worked. They literally, like, that show grabbed me and put me in the back. They said, "You're too big to run stuff from the ring. We don't have any extra, like, there's no real security spots. We got this person ringing the bell, this person grabbing gear. Just be in the back if somebody needs something, whatever." And sure enough, like, that trip is kind of the first interaction I had with the world champion, Trevor Murdoch. I was making runs for him to the gas station, making runs to go get waters, you know, doing like that's paying your dues, setting up the ring, setting up the set, you know, making sure everybody's taken care of, bringing in catering, and then, you know, tearing down the ring at the end of it. And then the next go around was back at Oak Grove, Power Trip 2. I don't know. I'd have to see the dates or whatever, but I was, they needed extras. They needed guys in the ring. They had, Magic Jake was introducing his new gimmick. Cause he'd been Fable Jake. Now he's doing Magic Jake Dumas. And, they had a couple, like a 6-man tag match just for like pre-production darks or whatever. Yeah. So those are your tryout matches. They usually have a couple matches that there's no crowd. It's just for production to get their stuff right. And then they've got a couple matches in front of the crowd to make sure that we're still, you know, with the crowd noise and everything's good. So I was very fortunate to be in a singles match with Magic Jake. And, you know, dude, jobber jacket. Had the sweet jobber jacket, had my name across the back, my black and white boots, my red trunks, you know, just 80s wrestler gimmick. That's what I was doing. Yeah. And, you know, I loved it. I just love going and wrestling. And so, like, we go out there, we have a decent match, it's 6 to 8 minutes. It was easy. Like, and I get in the back, and somebody, the agent grabs me and says, "Hey, Pat Kenny and, you know, Billy Corgan want to talk to you." I was like, "Oh, shit." This is either really good. This has happened multiple times. Like, this is either really good or really bad. So I go in. Pat and Billy are sitting there in production. Pat does his little thing. He goes, you know, he said, "We like your look." He said, "You did really well out there, this, that, and the other." And He said, you kind of remind me, and it hit me weird, and I don't know if I've ever told him this, but like I knew what I looked like. He's like, you kind of remind me of one of those 80s jobber gimmicks, you know, the 80s jobber guys, the enhancement talents. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, well, except I'm 6'2", 295 pounds, and I'm built like a freaking brick house. But no, I get it. I'm in red trunks, black and white boots, white freaking knee. I know what I look. I look like my dad. And God love my dad. My dad will tell you that's what he did. He was an enhancement talent for the NWA, WCW. That's who I modeled myself after. So they're like, well, he's like, we really like your stuff. We'd like to have you at TV next time we go. Gave him my email, cell phone number, and the rest is history.